Good evening. Namaste. The divine within me recognizes and honors the divine within you, for truly we are one. Come together tonight in this oneness for one purpose, to remember who we are, to let go of any of those challenges or strifes that might be happening in our life, and to come back to the truth, which there is God and only God, and in that all things are healed. So that's what tonight is about.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday night, our midweek service, our opportunity in the middle of the week to remember the truth, to realign ourselves with that good. So we're talking and we're moving all year along with a book called The Way of Mastery. It's set up in 35 different lessons, and so we're utilizing the lessons as kind of an impetus to study individual principles. And tonight they're talking about the birthing of the egoic mind. And I was reading along in there today, and I'll let you read, those of you that have the book, to go a little bit further. And it literally was almost a new creation story, if you will, about, which I thought was pretty powerful, about the aspect of that it is all God, and it is all God in its purest sense, and it is non-form, and it is infinite potential, and it is unlimited creativity, and it is just that unformed substance, if you will, that it's all God. And that's where it all began. And then what happened is that it moved and started seeing parts of itself, that they use the example of a drop of milk. You know that commercial where they pour milk into a glass, and then at the very end a drop drops in it, and you see the drop go down and hit it, and then the drop bounces back up. And they use the analogy that that's very similar to who and what we are, that you could really call that drop something separate from the milk, but all it is part of the milk with some volition or some independent energy that's moving. So they use that same concept as that's who and what we are, that this unformed substance, this infinite intelligence and wisdom, and that's everywhere present. If we were just to get quiet enough, if we were to align ourselves with it, we would have full use of it. It would be, we would recognize it and allow it to move through us. It's just like that milk that just is a drop. It appears separate, and it appears that it's something different than the whole, than the other milk, but the truth is it's all one. And the same is true for us. So if you will, they're utilizing the analogy that we are the drop, that we are God, the substance that we are made of, in, through, and as. There is no separation. There's nothing different than, but that we are that individualized drop or expression or something that appears separate. And it's through that appearing of separate that gives us our challenges. Because we forget that we are that all that we could need is right there available for us, that infinite wisdom and intelligence and peace and love and joy is right here, present right now, if we were to be awake to it, if we were aware of it. That we forget that, and that's what begins to create our problems. And they called that ego. But the truth of it really is, as I started thinking about that, they say the ego mind is that which is focused on the material world. So that means it's that which is focused on that which is already created. That, the end product, if you will, of somebody's creation. And the non-ego mind is that which is connected to source, which is connected to spirit. That which realizes and recognizes that there is no separation between the two. And you know, the ego's gotten a bad rap. You know, people talk about their ego and people's egos and their own egos. They beat themselves up about ego. There's even the phrase edging God out and all of this about making the ego bad. But the truth is that it is really just an aspect of God. It is an indicator, if you will. There's an article that was written about those that don't believe in, that are only in the material world, that are only in the ego world. It was a court case, actually, in Florida. And it says, in Florida, an atheist created a case against Easter and Passover holy days. He hired an attorney to bring a discrimination case against Christians and Jews and observances of their holy days. Similar to the cross here on Mount Soledad, huh? Christians and the Jews observe holy days. The argument was that it was unfair that atheists had no such recognized days. The case was brought before a judge, and after listening to the passionate presentation by the attorney, the judge banged his gavel, declaring case dismissed. And the lawyer immediately stood in, objecting to the ruling, saying, "Your Honor, how can you possibly dismiss this case? The Christians have Christmas and Easter and other holidays, and the Jews have Passover and Yom Kippur and Hanukkah. Yet my client and all of those other individuals that are atheists, that don't believe in God, have no such recognized holidays." And the judge leaned forward in his chair saying, "But you do." The lawyer said, "Your Honor, we are unaware of any special observances or holidays for atheists." And the judge says, "The calendar says April 1st is April Fool's Day. The Bible in Psalms 14:1 says, 'The fool says in his heart, there is no God.' Thus, it is the opinion of this court that if your client says there is no God, then he is a fool. Therefore, April 1st is his day." Very cute. So those that are living in the material world, those that are just looking at form, those are just looking at the world and what we're living in, those are the ones that are hurting, if you will. I know for myself, I've recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of focus on getting things done. I'm redoing my accounting system at home, and I've probably spent about 40 hours just really focused and designing and creating new systems and things that will do what I want them to do and speak for me. And I have some family members that are going through some different challenges and different things, and I've really been focused on what's going on in their world. I've been working on a new eating plan, and I've really focusing on what I was putting in my mouth and what I'm eating and what I'm doing, and all of my attention has been on the worldly aspect of life. And what I realized, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she's going through some medical issues, and all of her attention is on the body and the doctor visits and the medicine and all the stuff that's going on in this worldly aspect. And when all of our attention is put on what they're calling the egoic mind, that which is on the material or on the form and focus, that's when we have the ability for fear to slip in, for our joy to be gone, for challenges to come in, because of this world. And in this world there is fear. In this world there is challenges. In this world there are all types of things that can go wrong and that can grab our attention. But the challenge is that it pulls us out of focus. If we're spending too much time in our material world, if we're spending too much time in our job or in our relationships, focusing on challenges or our work or our money or any of those situations, we're putting way too much attention and focus on the material world, and it totally upsets our whole balance and our whole continence of being. That's when it feels like life isn't working. That's when the joy is kind of robbed out of every minute and everyday situation. And that's what we're doing here on our spiritual path. On the spiritual path is about awareness. It's about being awake. It's about making sure that we take time to balance ourselves, to remember the awe that's everywhere present, to remember beauty, to remember laughter, to remember joy. That it's easy for life to pull us in one particular direction, but the spiritual journey is about being awake and aware and consciously choosing. And so it's a journey about observing and watching our life at any given time. For I venture to say that the ego is not a bad thing. It's of God. The only thing the ego is really telling us is where our attention is. That's it. And therefore, it's a blessing. It's a beautiful tool. It's a wonderful gift of God that calls to us and brings us where our attention is and shows us where our attention is, which is in the material and the earthly form, so that we can choose balance again. When we relate in this material world and in this world that we're living with people, that ego, we usually associate it similar to the reading today of people that are having challenges like in self-esteem, not feeling really good about themselves. That shows up in a couple of ways. It shows up in the show-off, the person that's totally trying to grab attention all the time and trying to be seen and doing everything they can so individuals around them think they're a good person or try to relay to them that they're loved and well-liked. And then the other aspect of it is that person that is completely shy, that doesn't want to be before everybody because they're so afraid that they'll make a mistake or they'll be judged. Those are all feelings. Those are all aspects of the material world. Those are all aspects not of God, but of the material world. And so all of that points to love. As we've talked about, and they've talked about in this book many times, that love transforms all things. And so when we're in those ego states of rather getting attention or hiding from attention, all it simply means is it's the indicator that's telling us that we're just not loving ourselves enough. We're not feeding ourselves. We're completely out of balance. We're not taking the time to remember how beautiful we are and how powerful we are and everything that it is about us. We're giving too much weight and value, as remember they talked in earlier chapters about all events and all things are neutral, that we are the ones that give it energy. We are the ones that define it. We are the ones that give it value. So when we're looking to the outside world, and the biggest thing that we as individuals do is we judge ourselves. We're extremely tough on ourselves. Byron Katie said, in a couple of different quotes. She said, let me get my glasses. Oops. No ego. She says, I don't let go of my thoughts. I meet them with understanding, and then they let go of me. The only time we suffer is when we argue with what is. She goes forth to say, I don't ever want anything else to happen except for what is happening. There was a friend of ours we were with the other day, and he had, I think it was his grandfather, that was 90 years old. And he asked him, you know, what do you know now that you're 90? You know, how did you live so long, and how have you had such a great life? What do you have to share? You know, that can be helpful for me. And his grandfather said, I never give energy to resisting temptation. I never give energy to resisting temptation. Now that's just another way of saying what Byron Katie says, that you don't resist what is. And that can be taken in a very joking way, that in all my desires and all those things that I want, I just go get. But the truth is that there's a lot of wisdom in that I never give energy to resisting. I never give energy and trying to fix and change and make something different than the way it is. In fact, we don't give value to it when it talks about all events are neutral. We don't give energy to what is happening outside of us because we realize what is happening outside of us is as fluid as all things. That which is on outside of us is so subject to change. It's just an indication of where our focus is. It's just it's something that's being called to our attention so that we can make choices, so that we can wake up. None of us are walking around here perfect. So when ego type things like boastfulness or trying to get attention or trying to have somebody tell you how great you are or that you're loved, when those kinds of things come up for us, they're just telling us, they're just a simple indication of where our attention is. They're just an indication that we haven't taken the time to love ourselves. They're an indication that maybe the self-talk that we're doing to ourselves is beating ourselves up. It's just an indication that we're out of balance. That we're not spending as much time in spiritual truth as we are in material form. But all of it is God. And just as much as that bringing to our attention, whatever it is that's happening in life, all of that is the activity of God that's calling forth our greatness, calling forth our transformation. That's how it's all God. Because nothing can go wrong that doesn't eventually go right. It's like when we teach a child to walk. Them falling while they're building their muscles, them while they're crawling, while they're standing up and falling and walking and walking and walking. That's not wrong. That's not bad. That's life. And so can we be that easy on ourselves? Can we be that gentle with ourselves? And so I just invite us to rephrase that word ego and change and shift what it means. And let's call it our friend. Let's call it God talking to us. Let's call it our reminder of where our focus is in the material world. If we're feeling pain and fear and lack and challenges, just heaviness, unhappiness, it's just an indication of where our focus has been. It just means that we need to give more spirit. We need to get more in balance. We need to put our focus on the good and the awe that's everywhere present. No big deal. When an individual is being egotistical, as we would call it, or boastful or whatever, the greatest thing that we can do is go love them and remind them that they are loved. Because that's only an indication that they forgot. It's just an indication, just like us, that they haven't been spending much time in their spiritual aspect. That's all. They're not a bad person. Nothing's wrong with them. It's just where have they been spending their time. And the fastest transformation that we have is love. And so as we go forth and we give them love, and we tell them, and primarily by us being love and loving ourselves, which is the greatest example. But when we become that and we shift the energy in the room to love, it shifts them to love. So we're not there to fix them or to do anything. We're just naturally bringing love into the room because that's who and what we are. See, we are all the hands of God. We all are God in action. We all are the individuals that are called forth to be that place where it shines so brightly. We need to remember that. I want to share with you a reading from this section that talks about that. It says, "You've been playing a game of hide and seek. You are the one with your eyes closed, leaning against the trunk of a tree, counting, while the fragments of yourself ran to hide. And you are the one who has reached out to discover those fragments and is in the process of doing that. You are the soul waiting to be touched by grace. You are the separate one hiding in the darkness, trembling and yet wanting the light to find you. You are the one who is coming now from the trunk of the tree. I have done a very good job of hiding, but I think it would be a great delight to be found. Find me. Touch me with your grace. Because I am you, I will decide to receive it. In this moment, I choose now to remember that I am the one who is both sought and found. I am the one who has remained perfectly unchanged forever, and I am the one who has perceived myself as having changed, as having separated myself. But I choose now to join the two parts of myself. I will be a body-mind upon this planet, dancing, singing, playing, and creating the good, the holy, and the beautiful. I will open that part of my mind that can think in unlimited ways, that will dare to dream the impossible dreams. I am the one who lets God live in me now. I and my Father are one. So this world is no longer a burden. This world of space and time is no longer something which I must escape. Not even sickness or disease is a limitation for me. For wherever I am the presence of love. In this moment, I bring forth love and blessings and bless the world that I see. We have those fragmented parts of ourselves. We have times when we're focused in our material world. We're of the material world. We need to focus there sometimes. And we have times of which we get to step out and close our eyes to this physical world and step into the beauty and the glory. The spiritual journey is about knowing that it is there at all times and catching ourselves and stepping in and remembering, if you will, raising up, moving to the vibration of the Most High so that we can live the majority of our time from that place. Because it's in that place, which sometimes is called heaven, it's in that place where the fear is dissolved, where the pain goes away, where the sadness goes away, where all things work and well-being is. It's right here. It's right here now. It's always here in its fullness and its infinite supply. And it's through our consciousness and our choice and our awareness that we get to accept it, that we get to participate in it. And so we celebrate the ego because it's just that beautiful little essence that comes forth and says, oops, you're not remembering. Oops, too much attention in one area. Shift your attention here and all things change. It's the equalizer. It's the balancer of life. It is the gift of God. So let us reframe that. As we accept ourselves, as we love ourselves, because this is a journey of self-love. And as we love every part, every aspect, every essence of our being, we are transformed. And so let us turn within together as we just acknowledge this truth. As we get an opportunity to close our eyes, knowing that at any moment we get to choose where our attention and focus is. May we take many moments of closing our eyes to the outside world and form and just breathing, simply being. May we take many moments where we remember to love ourselves. We remember to feed and nurture ourselves and care for ourselves. May we take many moments where we choose to see the beauty that is everywhere present always. May we take the time to find it, to look for it, to appreciate it. May we realize that we are immersed in a powerful, loving presence, a wisdom that surpasses all things. In fact, we are the essence of it. We are the milk. We just are a drop of it. But already within us is everything we could possibly need. I give thanks to realize this truth and to know this truth, to remember. For we are simply here to remember. We already know it. It's already within us. So let us remember together as we go forth in love. I give thanks, and so it is. Amen. And so I recognize right here and right now that as we close our eyes, we get to immerse ourselves in that which is beyond formed, that unformed substance. As we close our eyes to the material world and the form that is already created, we get to slip into that place that is love, beauty, intelligence, that is abundance and wholeness. For it is right here, it is present always. And so I open my mind completely to it. I open every part of my being. I recognize it, I claim it for each and every one of us and all of those names that are spoken here tonight. For I know that we are these beautiful essence, we are these spirits, and in that essence of spirit, there is nothing wrong, nothing needs to be fixed, nothing needs to be healed. There is simply wholeness. And so as I know this truth for myself, I know it for each individual name spoken here. And in that power, in that God essence, healing happens, transformation happens, change happens, love appears, peace overcomes us. And so I claim that for each individual and all of us here tonight and all of those that walk our planet. It's with the heart that is filled, that is open, that is overflowing, that I choose God. I choose to know the truth and see the truth. I choose to love myself fully when I forget. And I choose to know that I never walk alone. For God is right here, guiding and leading, healing and loving in every moment. And I am so grateful, and I allow it to be. And so it is. Amen. May you always feel the embrace of God. May your heart be filled with wholeness and abundance. May you know that your every step is guarded and guided. And may you feel, sense, and know God's amazing grace. For it is in, through, and around us always, and in always. God bless you all. Go forth in peace. Good night.